Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Net Chicks, and today we are going to do a review of Eat.Pray.Love. It's a movie that came out in 2010, rated PG-13. But I feel like this movie is probably best for ages like 17 and older, because there are some themes in here that are not necessarily appropriate for kids, and some things that are a little bit too influential for teens. So I just want to jump right into it and get to what I thought of the movie and how I feel about it now after having watched it when it like originally came out in 2010. So, according to IMDb, a married woman realizes how unhappy her marriage really is, and really? Is that how it says? Yeah, a married woman realizes how unhappy her marriage really is and that her life needs to go in a different direction. After a painful divorce, she takes off on a round the world journey to find herself. So on IMDb, it has a 5.8 out of 10, which I feel like is totally unfair for this movie. It clearly deserves a solid 6. And what's funny is that whenever I watched this in 2010, I was like around 17 or 16. I'm probably just going to go for 16. And I would have given this movie a 9 out of 10. I felt like it was realistic, and of course it's like Julia Roberts. Who doesn't love Julia Roberts? But I felt watching this as 25-year-old, it's not, it doesn't quite have the best message, but it also doesn't have like a terrible message, if that makes any sense. So to kind of like go into like the feel of the movie, it feels very 2008. So I'm just kind of looking at my notes here. Yeah, so it is a drama comedy. And it also hits all the beats that is needed for a successful early 2000s dramedy, where the woman is extremely successful in like every capacity except for emotionally. She has like this beautiful house, but she feels empty on the inside, and material things don't fill it, and she turns to God or whatever or the universe or whatever for a sign to help her do the right thing. But what I think is funny is that she does a lot of, like, I don't know, she does a lot of God hopping, which we'll also get to that too. And I feel like I'm going to offend some people with my review of this because it's just, because it does deal with an Eastern religion. She's a Western woman who had like either atheistic or like Western ideals, and then she is a Western woman that turns to an Eastern religion. So it's like, it's so confusing. I can't wait to get into all of it. But yeah, one approach that I do really like from this movie is that they kind of show the aftermath of what a rom-com should be. So what I guess makes it less of a comedy and more of a drama is that she doesn't have like the whole like meet cute with her husband, who's Steven, and he is played by Billy Crudup. Let me know if I pronounced that correctly in the comments. But yeah, so Billy Crudup plays Stephen Gilbert, her husband, and Julia Roberts plays Liz Gilbert. And it kind of shows that she worked really, really hard for their relationship to be how it is, which makes sense because being in a romantic relationship with someone and then deciding that you're going to move on to marriage, that is a big deal, and it does take a lot of work. However, after she has him, she no longer wants him. So I found that to be kind of interesting. But yeah, as for how long this movie is, I think that that's very important if you're going to watch it. This movie is 2 hours and 13 minutes, which is long, but this is supposed to be a really big deal. The Eat, Pray, Love book was very popular when it came out, so that should be fine. However, if you're anything like me, it took me 3 hours to watch this movie because there was just so much to it that like made me so angry that I had to pause and rant for like about 15 minutes, and then I would play like a 5-minute clip, and I would pause and rant, and it was such a problem, and then I started procrastinating and playing video games. So I had to watch it again, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to procrastinate. I'm going to get through this because I feel like the people need to know. They need to know if this is still a good movie 10 years later. And I don't know. I feel like it is. But we're gonna get into it, guys. I promise we're gonna get into it. So I'm gonna recap chronologically, and I also want to see what you guys think of the film. If you, because some of you may have never heard of this film or haven't watched it yourselves, I feel like it is worth the watch. But I'm gonna get into why in a little bit as well. I'm gonna try to. I will be explaining a lot in the beginning of the film, like what that's about. But I'm gonna be vague towards the end of it because I feel like the end part is where it's very satisfying, and I think a lot of people will appreciate that part. But the beginning's just annoying. It's stupid. So first it opens with her visiting a magic man in Indonesia named Ketut, and he gives her 3 prophecies. He tells her that she will lose and regain all of her money. She will have 2 marriages. One will be long and one will be short. And the third one is that she will come back to Indonesia. He will teach her everything that he knows, and she'll also help him perfect his English, which I think was really cute. Ketut is very flirtatious, which I thought was really cute because like most older men are flirtatious. Once you hit 50, I don't know what happens. You just think you're a Casanova at that point, which I guess you're right. I don't know, but I thought it was funny. But yeah, he also gives her a small picture for her to work with that kind of looks like the god Ganesh a little bit. But she has the picture and she kind of reflects on it, and it's kind of telling her like, you know, keep your feet on the ground and like your relationships, but like be open to new things and have your head in the clouds, like whatever. And then it cuts to 6 months later. So then we have Liz Gilbert, played by Julia Roberts, at a party with her friend Delia, who is Viola Davis. Why was Viola Davis not in this movie more? Like, she's amazing, but whatever. And she, so Liz Gilbert, Viola Davis, whose character's name is Delia, and then Stephen Gilbert are at a party. And these parties are more of an opportunity for Liz and Delia to do some networking because they all live in New York and they're writers. And Stephen does proofreading for Liz, which is really sweet. Like, you know, they're a couple that works together, make their money together. That's really cute. Then Delia says to Liz that, you know, she has some people that she wants to network with, and just Delia leaves her baby with Steven, and Steven's holding it like, I don't know what this is, and it's so annoying. I have a small rant on that. That needs to be a trope that stops with 2020. Like, just stop it, because we can't assume everybody knows how to hold a baby. I know how to hold a baby because my mom decided to have a child when I was about like 12, and then she had another baby when I was 13, and they're my little brother and sister, and I love them, and I hope that they're watching this. Hi guys. And you know, I learned from that at a very young age. I also used to babysit when I was like 10 years old and 11 years old. So, but not everyone has that. A lot of people are like only children in a family, so they're not going to know how to hold a baby. So this whole trope that like you're a terrible person or like you're not empathetic enough because you don't know how to hold a child is ludicrous to me. And I feel like we do it a lot. And it's especially in like feminist films where like the strong independent businesswoman doesn't know how to hold a baby. Like, you keep it close to your chest so it doesn't fall and it stays warm. That's it. It's not hard. Or if you see that someone's struggling, you don't just leave them with the baby. You explain to them how to hold it, or you hold your own darn baby. Or here's the thing that made me laugh was that she later on, after, you know, Liz looks at her husband like an idiot because he doesn't know how to hold a child, and Delia and Liz come back to meet up with Steven, Delia's husband is there, and he's like, give me the kid. You're at the party, and you don't give the baby to the father who knows how to hold the baby? I felt like that was kind of weird, and they were just kind of setting him up to fail. But whatever. So the whole time, after she's come back from her trip from meeting up with Ketut, which I don't understand why she was there anyway, but whatever, they go upstairs and they talk about, like, you know, what expectations they want in life and how they want to achieve their lifelong goals. it sounds like Liz's lifelong goal is to travel, and Delia's lifelong goal is to have children. And Delia has achieved her goal, whereas Liz still has some places that she wants to visit before she dies, which a lot of people do. And it feels good whenever you can check that off of your bucket list. And I know totally how that feels. But it's just she sounds like she doesn't have an opportunity to do that when later on in the car she's talking to her husband about how she has a trip to Aruba and that she's going to take him with her and that she bought a new bikini and that she has unlimited minibar access, which is amazing because minibar snacks are so expensive. And it's like you get to travel and your husband just lets you go wherever without him. Like, not a lot of couples are strong like that, but whatever. So yeah, there's that. And then he's like, he clearly had something on his mind, and he was like, yeah, that's cute. So babe, I want to tell you about like how I want to go back into education. And he wants to start working in the education system, and she gets butthurt. Like, it's also kind of a thing in the film, I forgot to explain this too, that Steven kind of jumps from job to job. So he proofreads for Liz, he works on vintage cars, and then I think like before he mentioned that he was interested in going back to school to get his master's degree, he wants to he's a pastry chef. So I feel like you're the husband, you kind of need to settle down on one thing, but I'm glad that you're interested in high paying occupations. Now being a teacher, he wouldn't make a whole bunch of money, but he wouldn't be making no money. Like, it's not clear whether or not he's just living off of her money or if they both had money before, but based off of how their wedding looks, which we see later on in like memory clips, and how they dress and how their house looks, their house is gorgeous. Like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I think that they're both making enough money that he could go to school for a little bit and figure out what he wants to do, and also help the school system, because the school system in New York sucks, and I'm pretty sure it was bad in 2010 and it's probably bad now. So let the man go and impact the community when you talk about wanting to impact whatever. But yeah, so I'm gonna go further down and see what my next point is, but it's just really annoying. But yeah, and this video is gonna be long, and I apologize, but I have so much to say. But yeah, so let me see. Yes, so the part that made me have to pause the movie was when she's walking around her house and she's complaining that she helped build a life that she doesn't feel like she's a part of, which I don't get where in this film she gets that feeling. Pretty sure that's Katut's fault. And she gets on her knees and she prays and she's like, God, please give me a sign. I'm sorry I don't talk to you very much. Big fan of your work. What do I do? And I'm like, oh wow, so I don't really remember this part. I wonder what's gonna happen next. Like, how are they gonna work things out? And how is he a jerk? And that makes her leave, because I know she gets divorced and falls in love with someone else. She immediately gets into bed. It's probably like 3 a.m. or something. And she's like, I'm not happy, I want a divorce. And he's like, I thought you just got up to get milk. Like, his face at least says that. He didn't actually say that. But like, oh my gosh. And so they go through like this terrible, lengthy process of getting divorced, and he represents himself, which was kind of funny, and he ends up like singing to her to try to win her back. And he's like, I want to work this marriage out, which is like, that's a really good thing. Not a lot of people say that whenever someone else tells them that they want to get divorced. And she's like, no, I don't want to work things out with you. I want to spend my own time, be myself. And he's like, well, I'll wait for you. And she's like, don't wait for me. I don't want you to wait for me. And I'm like, how powerful of a message could this have been if she had stayed married? Like, just stay married, spend your time separately. But no. So the thing that makes me so angry too is that she goes and she meets up with James Franco's character, whose name escapes me. Let me go to my notes. I'm so sorry. Once I get editing stuff, these videos will be a lot shorter. David. Yes, it was David. So she moves out of her house while she's in the middle of getting her divorce finalized. And she's living with Delia and her husband. And so Liz and Delia go to an off-Broadway play, and James Franco's character, David, is there. And he's the main character in the off-Broadway film. This part, I had to pause because I just started laughing. It was so terrible. I was laughing and cringing. I thought my eyes were going to fall out. But so this dude is on stage, and somehow, for those of you who have never been on stage, you can't just see people, but somehow he saw her. And the reason you can't see people is because you have a humongous bright light staring at you in the face, and then there's no light over the people in the audience. But somehow he sees her. And I guess it was love at first sight for him. So he looks at her while he's supposed to be reciting these, reciting his, confession of love for the woman who's actually in the play with him. And, it's so bad. It's so terrible. What he says is that, whenever I see you, I hear dolphins clapping. And a bunch of other weird stuff. But the dolphins clapping thing is just what broke me. And so it was just weird. But anyway, let me see. But yeah, so she is introduced to, oh, my glasses are crooked. She's introduced to a new religion that David shows her after the play, because there's an after party, of course. And of course, Liz can get into the after party at an off-Broadway play, whatever. And she meets with him, and he's introducing her to this new religion under the Guru Gita, who I think died. The religion in this is really unclear, but yeah. So, gosh. I totally forgot. Oh, yeah. So she gets really involved in the religion, finds out that it's based in India. She leaves David and then goes off to India, and then the movie truly starts. So, just to kind of quickly encapsulate what it is, because I still have other issues, which I kind of touched on a little bit, but whatever. In Italy, she learns the eat lesson, which is that you need to learn to eat food that's good for you. It can be decadent. Love yourself, but make sure you're eating healthy. She learns to just enjoy herself. She learns the value of the nuclear and traditional families, that traveling is important and that you can be an independent woman, and also to respect your failures, and that sometimes ruins can be a jumping point off of a failure. Failure can be a jumping point for success. That's what it is. Then she goes to India, and she learns to come to terms with her mistake, the fact that she did leave David and that she was in love with David and isn't now. I don't know. And she learns to forgive herself. She tries not to control everything so much. She becomes one with her spirit, more or less, to the point where an elephant acknowledges her spirituality. So that was one thing that irritated me too. I was wearing sandpaper pants because everything irritated me. But she was very there's a circus in India that was coming through, and one of the elephants was released by accident and was just roaming around India, and they were trying to look for it, which I don't know how you can't find an elephant, but I'm just going to give India the benefit of the doubt because it's a big continent, but I'm pretty sure people in India are not that stupid, but whatever. But yeah, so once she finally figures herself out, an elephant comes up and he's just good job, and pets her with his trunk and then leaves. Which it was cute, but it's a loose elephant. So could we I don't know. But I'm thinking too much into it. It's a movie. Then she goes into Indonesia, and that represents the love part of the movie, which was actually the hardest part for her, where she has to learn to balance hard work with joy. She learns how to be indulgent, but also loving others and allowing herself to be a part of a relationship and to be vulnerable, which was the biggest deal for her. And I'm so proud of this character for figuring that out. But there's still a slight problem with the love part that I'm going to get into. But yeah, but basically she's happy and she's in love and she moves on and she ends up with Felipe. But yeah, so why did I have an issue with some things? I kind of already touched on the issue with her marriage, but I do want to just say one more thing, because I'm not really sure YouTube won't tell me the age demographic of my viewers, but I'm going to hope that you guys are like in your 20s and you know better. But just in case, I'm just gonna let this be a disclaimer. In my experience, being married myself, marriage is hard work. You cannot just quit when it gets difficult and when you get stressed out and when the other person annoys you. It's a lifelong commitment. And I feel like because I'm a Christian, I do take it very seriously. I am like an actual practicing Christian, and I had a conversation with my husband where I said, if I'm getting married to you, it's to be permanent, and if you want to leave me, one of us has to die. And he said, that sounds great. And I said, great. And we went through counseling and we had tough conversations and we met each other's families and we dealt with the family dynamic and how like each of us are changing, and there's still ways that we're changing now. And I mean, we were talking earlier today and we were reflecting on the fact that this time last year he was thinking about proposing to me, and we were thinking about the tough conversations we were going to be having. And I think our proposal-versary is like on the 26th or something. I don't know if that's a thing. But yeah, but please put in the comments whether or not I'm like overreacting on some of this stuff. But I understand everyone's views are different. However, I feel like because she became such a spiritual person, and I can't speak for people who are not Christians. If you are not a practicing Christian, that's totally different for you. But I find that people who do believe in, who are very spiritual, find things to be sacred. She clearly found joy to be sacred and food to be sacred and family to be sacred, but she didn't find her marriage to be sacred. That's kind of weird. And I understand she didn't want men to define her, and that's fine. But you can still find yourself and still be in a marriage. Like, I don't know. And I'm assuming it's the character's first marriage, but it's stupid. And she's just way too old to be jumping from relationship to relationship, especially when she was in the middle of being separated and then jumped in with someone else. I just don't recommend that, and I have no idea how old my viewers are, so I also don't recommend that for you. If basically, I feel like if you're 13, just wait until you get into college to date, because boys are just not worth it. But whatever. Yes. Also, I had a slight issue with how she was traveling, and I promise, guys, I will get to the parts that I actually did like. I promise. So she went to Italy, and Italy was beautiful. It was beautifully portrayed. I loved every moment of watching her experience Italy. Like the parts where she got lost, and the parts where she was in the barbershop, and the parts where she was learning how to pronounce words, and they were like cue in on her mouth, and you would see how she would get better and better at speaking Italian, and when she was practicing it, and then once she finally mastered it was so great. I loved it. And she was also around a lot of Italian looking and behaving people. That was great. I loved being immersed in that. So we move over to India. She gets into India and she's trying to find peace, and it's a bunch of hustle and bustle. She's surrounded by Indian people, and Indian people asking her for money, and Indian people wanting to sell her things, and Indian people just like living their lives and going to marriages and not marriages, weddings. It was awesome. My only issue with that part, which this is the part where you guys have to tell me if I'm overreacting, is that I felt like most of her interactions were with non-Indian people. There was the young lady in the beginning whose name escapes me, but she was very sweet. Teenager, didn't want to get married. She was able to console her that marriage is not a bad thing, which was really nice. And it is about being happy, but it's also about making the right choice. But, you know, if you're in an arranged marriage, then you have to trust your parents that they know what's best. But then after that, she spends all of her time with Richard from Texas, a Caucasian male, which is fine. But the dude that led the whole program, I'm gonna call it the Gita program because I can't remember the name of the actual religion that she was celebrating. But yeah, the Gita program, white guy, and the lady that helped her with her meditation or like inspired her or whatever, white lady. And not that I have a problem with white people. I just find it weird that she goes to India to be a part of an Indian religion and there's only white people. But, like, it's fine. Sometimes that happens, you know? Like, I'm in a predominantly white area and I have some black friends. Like, that happens. But then she goes to Indonesia and somehow she falls in love with a white man. Somehow. Who just has business in Indonesia. And maybe like some of you who are well traveled can just put in the comments whether or not that's a common thing where you travel and you meet more people like you than people from the actual continent that they're from, and you end up spending more time with them. But I just thought that was kind of weird. But, you know, that's just me. I don't know a whole lot about traveling. I mostly traveled in America, and when I did travel overseas, it was with the other group, and we went to predominantly white areas. I did see some black people, so, like, it does happen. But when I did see those black people, it was only in one country, and it was France, and it was like one black family. But you know, I'm just saying, maybe I just don't know. I don't know. I'll go to Indonesia and I'll go to India and I'll tell you if I meet any other black people. But I just think it's really weird. I just think it's weird. But that was me. Like I said, let me know in the comments what you think. Now let me tell you what I did like about it, which I did mention in this. I felt like the relationship that she has with Felipe is really cute. I did like Steven as a character. I felt like her in her first marriage, I feel like the problem was just her. And I think that if she definitely was going to be toxic, which I hate to say that a Julia Roberts character is toxic, but she kind of was, you know, like she wasn't actually ever happy whenever Steven was around. And I don't know if she married him out of obligation because she didn't want to be lonely or something. I don't know, but she looked really unhappy. But with Felipe, like she was like a teenager, you know, like she couldn't get enough of him, and she looked really in love, and it was nice. But James Franco's character David, I could have done without that whole thing. but I'm talking about what I like. Yeah, so I felt like there was a lot of character development in this film. I felt like the atmosphere was beautiful. I felt like every country was portrayed beautifully. The food looked so good. And honestly, the takeaway lessons from this would be to love yourself no matter what size, and to make sure you love others. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. And, you know, find the religion that's right for you. Yay! I don't know. Wow, so many people are gonna be mad at me. But I would definitely recommend this film for people who are avid Julia Roberts fans and people who like rom-coms. I feel like if you wanted to see what the early 2010s were like for some people, I would definitely watch it. And if you like watching movies about people traveling to different countries, I would definitely recommend this movie too. I definitely think it's worth watching, and I decided to make this my first review of the new year because I did have so much to say. Like, it's 27 minutes right now. I never have this much to say, typically. I feel like my videos are typically like 8 to 15 minutes, but you know what? I want to be clear with you guys on how I feel about things. I don't want to skimp just because I don't have editing abilities, but I felt like this was a good movie, and I think that looking at things with different eyes is also important. I would definitely recommend you watch other movies that you watched when you were younger to see how you've changed and where your viewpoints are, and if you still believe in those things and why. I felt like this movie really helped me to explore my beliefs and compare where I was in 2010 to where I am now in 2020, which is kind of like a nostalgic time capsule. I felt like it was a really good adventure for me too, as much as it was for the Julia Roberts character. And I'm hoping that this is a good adventure for you too. So that's all I have to say, honestly. Stereotypical request for you to like and subscribe. Shout out to my 26 subscribers. How did I get to 26 subscribers? I feel like I'm related to like half of you guys. But yeah, thank you so much. I am on Twitter. At netchicks_19. I am on Instagram also as netchicks_19, and I don't do Facebook because I'm not 30 yet. So have a wonderful day. You know, make sure you follow those resolutions, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.